Perhaps one of the most important things you should be doing as an insurance agency owner is developing systems to help you find and recruit the best talent that's available to you. This is probably the most difficult thing that agency owners intend to try to solve, and they really don't know how to go about it. So what I'm going to do in this video is essentially give everything to you that I have learned over the past 10 years since starting to recruit in 2013 on how to do it successfully. We're going to go through a litany of different strategies, but not just like hit on them from a high level, but go into detail. We're going to go through several different strategies, including organic social media, paid and unpaid. We're going to go through traditional channels like email, outbound calls, etc. And I'm going to give you, in some circumstances, specific examples of what I have used and how the results have been. Again, the goal here is to give you perspective on the different options that are out there and to help you choose which strategy is best given what your talents are and where your desires lie in recruiting. My name is David Duford. I own Insurance Agency Builders. I've been in the insurance agency recruiting business since 2013. Originally started as an agent, now run a 8-figure valuation business in the final expense and Medicare space. And this channel is dedicated to giving it all away to you, what I have learned along the way to help you not make the dumb mistakes that I have. There's nothing to buy. I'm not trying to recruit you. I'm just trying to pay it forward. So let's jump right in. So the first one, and I think we're going to start with, I believe, is the most asked about, the most interested in, largely because of my background on YouTube recruiting agents, and that is the social media organic process of recruiting. So we're going to talk about the definition, the pros and cons, and then I'm going to actually walk you through what my YouTube channel looks like, how I come up with content briefly so that you can kind of get a starting point to where how to do what I do, not just on YouTube, but on other social channels as well. So of course, social media, we all know what that is, right? We all have a smartphone. We all spend way too much time on social media. The idea behind social media is that there's a bunch of people out there who may be good prospects to recruit to, whether they're licensed or unlicensed, whether they know they're interested in the business or don't know they're interested in the business. There is a tremendous opportunity to develop a brand and a presence and a systematic approach to generate people who are interested in working for your agency. This is the way that I have built Duford Insurance Group. Probably 80 to 90% of my recruits now come from business that we've generated via YouTube using educational videos to help agents without any expectation in return. And of course, the return has been way more than what I have given, and I'm very thankful for that. The pros of this is that it is a cost-free strategy. You don't have to go out there and pay money in the sense of like buying a lead or paying a staff to call a list of agents like we'll talk about later. It is literally you with your phone. It could be just that simple. It could be more elaborate too, but giving away information, trying to help people in the process, and then hopefully some of those people will want and express an interest in working with you. The downside to social media is that typically it is a long, drawn-out process. The ultimate outcome of the successful social media campaign is not just recruiting. That's kind of an offshoot. Really, the goal of building social media is develop what is most important, which is a brand. And this is why I can continually recruit, even as there's more recruiters coming into the space, because I have a reputation in the business that I've carefully built through how I've displayed myself and the content I've chose to create. And that is a purposeful, intentful effort that now affords me the ability on autopilot to recruit typically now 10 to 15 qualified candidates every single week that already know what it is that we do, believe in our message, and can't wait to get started. Now the point is that it takes a long time to develop that, but the truth is long term it is absolutely worth the effort to go through it. And it's in my opinion, non-negotiable now at this stage as the marketing mediums and the paid spaces become more complicated, there's more regulatory concerns. You should be actively building a brand, and social media, no matter what platform it is that you want to be on, is the place to do it. So what we're going to do now is actually go over to my computer, and I'm going to walk you through what my YouTube channel looks like, how it developed over time, what some of the stats look like, and then give you some ideas on how to duplicate the types of content that I do, not word for word, of course, but from an idea conception point to at least send you on the right path to give you good content ideas that will help you get traction, get traffic if the YouTube space is of your interest. And then I'll also hit on some Instagram and Facebook stuff that you can do as well that will complement, say, a YouTube-based strategy. So come on over, let's check it out. Okay, so I'm first gonna start off with a walkthrough of the YouTube channel because that's where the bulk of my recruits come from, and truthfully told, I think this is where most of you should be. The power of YouTube is just incredible. It allows you to create a celebratory type of status, even though it's on a micro level. I can walk down the street, go to the store, nobody knows who I am, I get to enjoy my anonymity, but as soon as I get into an insurance space, people know who I am and there's a brand attached to that. And the other thing too is that YouTube has a sense of, I think, evergreen effect. YouTube is the premier platform to be on for short and long form copy, especially long form copy. And as a search engine, it ranks #2 in the process of getting questions answered. So people come to YouTube, in other words, to get help. And of course, there's a lot of people who need help that are thinking about selling insurance or already sell insurance. So first of all, YouTube. This is my homepage. You can build out use some graphics, some branding, very important to do. Always important to create call to actions in the videos themselves as well as in the banner itself. As far as the videos go and my strategy, I produce one new piece of content every single day, or what we would call a refurbished form of content. So there have been many pieces I've done. I have, it looks like 2,500 plus videos, and most people haven't seen them. They say they have, but they really haven't. So I can go back at videos that are a couple years old and basically take cuts of those and either turn them into shorts or turn them into short clips. So if you watch like Joe Rogan or some of these long form podcasts like Patrick Bet-David, he had Andrew Tate on the other day, he's not going to just publish that one long format interview and be done with it. If he's smart, he's going to cut it up into a ton of different shorts. He's going to cut it up into relevant clips. And he's going to turn that one piece of content into dozens upon dozens of content, not just on YouTube, but then across other platforms too. The point being, one pro tip in doing any kind of content strategy is to be okay taking and repurposing content across multiple clips, shorts, and other platforms. And I think this is a smart idea to do, even in a format like this. So some thoughts here on YouTube in general before we move on to some of these other social platforms. And I'm also going to mention organic Google rankings too. That is something that does work as well. What should you do? What strategy should you incorporate into figuring out what kind of content you should do? Well, I think you should first of all do what people want to see, not what you think they should see. The better off that you can align your content with what the people are already asking questions about or have an interest in, the more likely you're going to get traction in the space and start to build a brand and get subscribers and continue your success. So how do you figure out what's successful? Very simple process here. You can do this not just for my channel, but you can do this for any other channel that's out there, any of the Family First Life channels, Cody Askins, Justin Brock. I'm just trying to think of a couple of people who have nice sized channels. You can go to any of these channels and do exactly what I'm about to describe to give you a litany of ideas to discuss. So for example, go to videos and then click on popular. What shows up is the most popular videos I've ever created basically since I've started. So you can see these videos that are 5 years old, etc. Some are 7+ years old. But the point is we can get right away and start seeing some videos that are very successful right out the gate. And the thing that's interesting to do, or what I recommend you do, is first of all, these have all gotten substantial traffic. So these are always good things to talk about. Now, I'm not advocating that you steal the content per se, but to borrow the concept that's being talked about it and create your own version of it. For example, how much money can insurance agents make? Look, that's a very valid question, and that's the second highest video that I have. And I think it's a great idea to come up with your version of that. Maybe you're in the mortgage protection space or you're in the property and casualty space, and you make a more specific video about that, and you answer it in such profound detail that it's likely when people go to search for that term, they're going to find it. Same thing for the third one here, for new insurance agents, a day in the life of a life insurance agent. or of an insurance agent. You can go more granular, more niche, but that concept of what is it like to sell insurance is really what we're trying to tap on here, and you can go into detail on it. So if you follow this process, this is a great way to come up with ideas, stuff to talk about. You can do these in long formats, you can do these in shorts, right? So you can play it up, try different ones. But the point is, come to my channel to steal these ideas, go steal others. It's not, when you steal, quote unquote, you're not really stealing, you're just borrowing ideas. It's not saying that you're lacking creativity. It's saying that you're piggybacking on something already proven to work. And again, this works time and time again. Highly recommend that you go through this route in order to come up with some content ideas. Now, other things that you should do on your YouTube channel is make sure that you complete the About page so people know a little bit about you, so that what it is that you do, how you work with people. Make sure you have a call to action, like your website listed or your email address. I would also, that's the main thing that you want to do when you're on these pages, on the About page, and also in every video as you create the description. And I'll kind of leave it at this. When you create the description, make sure you link back to your page, your main website page, so people can navigate to them, so they can communicate to you. Make sure to mention it in the video. Make sure to talk about it. And the last piece of advice in actual content creation to attract agents is make sure that you give value first and foremost. Don't go on to just pitch them. Go on to actually help them in some way that they would not expect. Again, if you look through any of my content, and I'm assuming you have some familiarity, think of even this video. I'm giving you everything I've ever learned about building and recruiting. If I were to sell you something, and I might one day, you would be much more inclined to buy it because of the value you've gotten without even having to spend a single penny. There is a give and a take there. There's a reciprocity. And if you build your channel based off of just giving so much to people without anything in expectation of return, and you can do that for the long term, you're going to build an incredible brand like I have in the final expense space, and you're likely going to make a lot of money and have a consistent flow of recruits because you committed to this concept that didn't happen overnight but took many years to build. So that's YouTube. Now we can also look at some other strategies, because this is the one thing. I do want to show you this too. Again, this is not an overnight thing. This is something that takes time to develop. If we go look at my analytics here on the back end, I'm going to show you the counts that I have since starting. Hopefully the content will be there. These are the view counts that I've had. Like, I didn't get much views in the first year. Then it really started to pick up. And then once in the 17 and 18, it just flew through the roof, right? So why am I showing you this? Because it takes time to develop some sort of traction in the business. It doesn't happen overnight. It does take some time, and you need to consistently put out content. I would have been much faster in this process if I had put out more content consistently. I'm a big advocate of putting out a piece of content a day at minimum. You may only want to do a couple a week. That's fine, because you got to juggle your probably sales processes too and learning how to do all this stuff. But the more you do, the merrier. It's going to reach more people, get more people attracted, and hopefully lead to you recruiting more people. So that is what my recommendation. Oh, one more thing on YouTube that I think is really important. This is a way to shortcut some of the long tail process here to develop a brand, is collaborate with other YouTubers. Find people in the space that maybe have a cross section of interest like you do. Have, let's say, me on your channel. Have Cody Askins on your channel, and other influencers as well. What that gives you is this opportunity to connect with their brand, and that shows YouTube that you have relevancy. Think about all the people who did collaborations in non-insurance space. Think of all the people on YouTube you watch. That's how they quickly build their list fast as they get exposure in a massive way like that. So that's YouTube, long-term strategy, but absolutely worth every bit of effort to make it work. Now, moving on here, we also have Facebook. Now, Facebook here is great in the sense of it's where everybody pretty much is, although people aren't necessarily looking for help directly like they are on YouTube or Google. This is a great place to be if you're interested in contributing to a group community for insurance. So for example, I've got a couple of ones you can start on the left here: Insurance Agent Freedom, Insurance Boost, Life Insurance Tipsters and Closers, and Life Insurance Agents. These are some pretty good and large communities. And if you go in there just with, again, the goal of helping, providing good, valuable information, not expecting anything in return, you'll create a reputation and a brand within the confines of that group, which will ultimately expand into recruitment opportunities for you. Again, you can't go in there deliberately trying to recruit people, they'll boot you. But if you give and give and give and give and give, there's going to be some people who say, hey man, this guy gives so much, why wouldn't I want to work with him? That's really what you want to develop as far as a conversation in the mind of your prospects. Final expense is great too. Final expense, excuse me, the insurance forum. Specifically, I'm in the final expense forum occasionally. Posting some content up here is a great way to get traffic. The insurance forum doesn't get as much traffic as Facebook groups does, but it's still a great forum to go to. People do find content here to read, and they will come to this forum. So if you have good content and timing's right, you may get interest. This is how I got in the final expense business. This is where it was to be in 2011 with talking about the business experientially. And it's because this forum existed that I found the original organization that I was a part of. And then there's Instagram too as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later on a cold approach process. But with Instagram, you can create posts. You can do some strategies. We'll kind of save more of the talk for Instagram a little bit later. And the last thing I want to talk about is final expense training. Google searching. You can create posts on your website. And I spent probably a big chunk of 2019 creating content for my website, daviddufour.com, to basically attract traffic for people searching for search terms in Google for things like final expense training and selling final expense successfully and a bunch of different keywords. The goal here is pretty simple. Just write really good content. I would keep it to 1,000 to 2,000 words. Again, less about the word count, more about the value of the content you're giving. Let it be like really good pieces of content. And there is a potential over the course of a year or two that you can start ranking. It's kind of like YouTube in that it takes time to rank well. But this is a great way to get clicks, interest to your website. And again, I rank first for final expense training. And this is an old article that it's not even updated right. I mean, I need to go back and fix some of these hyperlinks to the YouTube videos, but you get the idea. So that is a little bit about how to market successfully in an organic fashion without paying for ads on social media, different platforms. This is a very cursory 30,000 foot overview with a little bit of detail in the YouTube direction, just because that's where I grew up. I know YouTube, I understand how it works. And so I wanted to give you guys some background there. We will be doing future videos. You may want to check my channel for specific breakdowns in more detail about YouTube, about building a content strategy. We're definitely going to do that. Answer questions about things like what cameras to use, how to set up audio, etc. Those are questions that are just naturally going to be asked. We're going to save those for that future video, but be on the lookout for that because that is definitely coming. Now, the next part of the social media strategy is to do what's called paid. So this is where instead of waiting for your content to rank, you actually pay money to have it rank. All of the details we've talked about are true in the sense of you just create good content that provides value, but you also have the element of having to pay for it. So what I'm going to do here is go over to my screen. I'm going to try to dig up an old ad that I used to run with a Facebook manager for some paid traffic to show you the strategy that I use to create interest in our agency in kind of an indirect way. It'll make more sense as we go over here and check it out, so come with me. Okay, so on the screen here is a Facebook campaign that we ran with some success, but I ended up closing it off because I had other things going on that I was trying at the time that I wanted to put money into. It worked okay, but I don't really like honestly paying for lists, email lists. I do so well doing organic that I'm always very hesitant to pay money for a name. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I've always kind of been that way. But what we got here on the screen is very simple. I created a piece of content. This was how to sell insurance, how to make $500,000 a year in 5 years or less passively. So it's a great piece of content with a lot of great information. And if you go look at the content here, it sells kind of what you're going to get, that video and more, when they create a free account on one of my training sites. And the purpose of this really was to create a relationship with these agents, to give them incredible value and free training that was going to help them sell more insurance and be more confident selling insurance, with the goal of some of those people seeing and witnessing and experiencing that, wanting to join my agency. So this is what I would call a more indirect approach. You can also run ads like this, but talk about recruiting agents and just do an in Facebook forum and then talk about your opportunity here. I don't do that because There's a litany of reasons there strategically. I'm not going to get into in this video. We'll save it for the difference between licensed and unlicensed opportunities as far as recruiting goes. But this is what you can do on Facebook. You can take the same kind of process, duplicate it across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It would have to be, of course, in some sort of video format for several of those. But conceptually speaking, this is how it works. And I think we were paying $6 a lead for this, which is pretty good. Especially if you're monetizing it beyond just the recruitment of the agent. There's more ways to monetize, which again, another topic for another time. But this is what I used in a paid format that I had some level of success with. So yeah, that is paid social media. Again, if you got a budget, you may want to consider this. Again, I know where my strengths are. I'm an organic player. I do so well at it. Why not do more of it, right? So for me, I haven't really done a lot of social as far as generating interest, but it is something that you can consider doing. Now, the next thing on the list here is our cold approach. So we've just talked about more passive ways to generate inbound interest, but there's also outbound strategies to develop interest. And I've got a really good one to talk about. I'm actually going to give you a reference to a provider that we have worked with some success. Not as much as my organic process, but I think this can be a really good opportunity to recruit to, given you follow the parameters and set it up the right way, especially if you don't want to wait as long as maybe what you would find, say, in an organic strategy. So this would be called a cold approach on social. So here's the premise. The premise is that you approach a particular affinity group that is on social media. And you approach them by dropping messages into their inbox. This can be on LinkedIn, this can be on Instagram, this can be on Facebook. Probably the provider that we use does more on Instagram than anywhere else, but also to some level on LinkedIn too. And here's the benefit to it. The benefit to this approach is that what many organizations do, including me, I mean, I kind of operate in this description I'm about to describe, is we go after people who are already being gone after. We're going after the same piece of pie. Well, when you go after an affinity group, you can go after people not just who are licensed, but many people who are unlicensed that might be of interest in what it is that we do. So you go outside of the pie to go to another pie. And this gives you the opportunity to recruit people who don't have bad habits, who start from square one, who are blank slates that you can go to, prospect to, and basically create a relationship with and teach them the way that you want them to do business. It's a very, very powerful proposition. And it allows you to approach people that aren't heavily in demand, like the people who are already licensed, getting solicitations left, right, front, and center. The downside to this approach is that it's manual labor. There's a couple of downsides to this. Number one, if you're going to do cold approaches, you probably need to drop at least 50, if not more, messages daily to whatever affinity group that you pick. And that takes the time. You got to find the people, you got to scrape the data, you got to target those people that fit the bill. And there's a lot of copy and pasting, a lot of time that takes into it. Now you can outsource that process, have somebody log into your accounts and do it. That is a viable alternative to the time investment. And it's a low probability opportunity. You know, you're going to hit them. You're not going to get a high conversion rate. You're looking for just a handful of people, maybe 3 to 5 people who are decent quality every month that you bring on and put into your team once you get scaled up and running. Another downside to the affinity approach, and this is probably the objection that I have to it, but it is what it is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just for us at DeFord Insurance Group, it doesn't align with our recruiting, our more easily ascertained recruiting strategies, is that using an affinity approach and you're approaching somebody outside of the insurance agent license sphere, it is a long sales cycle to get them licensed, to get them away from where they're working, to get them trusting you, to get them a believer, and then to get them in the field. It is not an instantaneous, quick recruitment thing. And what happens is while this has served some purpose intelligently, it takes a ton of work. And you're going to be talking to a lot of people to only get a few to do it. And it's up to you to take them from zero to hero, from ignorance to total understanding. And there's so much at risk of losing the people if they don't trust you all the way, or if there's other issues with their business, etc. So you really have to do a good job with picking a great affinity group. That's probably where in my process with this personally, we didn't do a good job of. My affinity group truly is insurance agents. But when the company we're going to talk about here and kind of profile that does a great job at this that we work with, when they say Affinity Group, you think of maybe a social circle or an affinity group that you just have a connection with, that you understand the people, how they think, how they operate, what their concerns are. And like if you're a musician, like if it was my son, he's grown up playing piano, he's very good at it. I would have targeted musicians. You know, musicians are almost always broke. They need to make money, and maybe they haven't considered an opportunity like insurance sales. So I could talk to a musician because I am a musician. I understand what their circumstances are. And so when you do cold approach, you kind of give yourself a couple of angles above just a flat out cold call without any sort of background. And people are more inclined, a little bit more inclined to have a conversation, talk to you about it. But you really have to have a well-refined affinity group. I think that's where we dropped the ball. We said something about weight training and physicality, and that's just not I was a personal trainer back in the day, but it just wasn't a really good affinity group. Maybe we should have done jiu-jitsu. I could talk to jiu-jitsu people. But the point is, because I love jiu-jitsu, but the point is that you really got to get the affinity group down in order to make this work. And that it does take a bunch of time. Now, who does this? Who are the people who are involved in this? It's a company called Allure Marketing. If you look them up on YouTube, you should see a small YouTube channel. They are on Instagram as well. I'm super impressed with their knowledge of recruiting, how they get things started, their overall awareness of the process. The people who run it, the guy that we're dealing with is a genius. He understands how to position your business in the mind of the prospect to see you as the expert. And you can learn. I've learned a ton from just this particular individual on branding, not so much branding, but on positioning and how you present yourself to somebody who has no clue what it is that you do and get them to trust you. So I think there's power in that. And I think it's really untapped. If you've got a really strong affinity connection to some group based off of your previous work history or your hobbies, this is absolutely something that you should consider. It's worth it. You'll learn a lot from these people. I highly recommend them. For me personally, I'm more in the reign of rescuing agents from bad situations that are maybe with the wrong organization, isn't a good fit. And long story short, it wasn't a good outcome for us, but I'm confident that if you're looking for an outbound strategy, this is the one to do when it comes to cold approaches. You can also do cold approaches on email. So what is that? So that's where you would acquire a list of licensed agents. There are a bunch of filters. You can filter by zip code, states, age, years licensed, type of license, types of appointments they have, and then do an email campaign, a spam campaign, lack of a better word, at a mass level, and then cultivate interest that way. So we've been doing that with very good success. We are doing some of our own emails, and we're getting really good results. I recommend checking out Discovery Data is the company that provides the email. They may have some sort of emailing solution to handle the campaign for you. If not, you would just buy a list, set it up however you want to, and then find some email campaign and then email out on a mass level on a multitude of follow-up emails to try to get them to book appointments with you to learn more. Strategies and how to make that work. I've seen organizations keep it very simple. They'll mass email something out like, hey, we got free leads at 70% contracts and 120% contracts with paid leads. Click here to learn more. They collect their information, then follow up with them later. The point is that there's a lot of different ways you can go here. You really have to know who your audience is, who are you trying to prospect, what are their pain points, and how can you identify them into your campaign. One thing that we do at the Ford Insurance Group is we focus on the agent that values mentorship, that's been burned in many cases by an agency that's more focused on multi-level marketing and not so much on training and support. And so our email campaigns that we do once a week exclusively focus on, hey, you're going to get support, you're going to get training. This is not another MLM Kool-Aid drinking scheme, whatever, right? And it works because we know who our audience is and know how to speak to them. Out of that huge list, there are people who are very interested because they've been through the process. They believe in insurance sales, but they've been jaded on the process of being successful based off their experience. Long story short, email absolutely still works. Email marketing works wonderfully well, even spam email, if you will, because it gives you scale at an affordable price and gets your conversation points in front of the right type of people, in this case, licensed agents. So it's something I highly recommend. It works wonderfully well. Now, this would be a purchase list solution. We'll talk later at the end of this about what you do with the information of people who opt in and following up with them. That's an incredibly important detail that you cannot miss, and I'm going to go into detail about what I do to kind of share with you what steps to take. So now another methodology that you can do to recruit agents, of course, is doing cold approaches over the phone. So this would basically be similar to purchasing a list like with Discovery Data, but also purchasing the business phone numbers that were listed. This is publicly available information that is pulled off of the DOIs and then is sold as lists. So these are business calls that you're making. Check with your attorney and TCPA laws, of course, to double check. But I'm pretty confident that you can call on those names because I get those calls all the time, and you probably do too. So this strategy does work. It is another mass market approach. It is kind of a spray and pray approach, but it is something that does work, and you can do it yourself, but this is something where I would consider outsourcing the task and finding a good person to do the work for, to follow up with. So for example, you can go to Upwork.com. I've hired a lot of my freelancers from there. Very highly recommended group of a website to find good people. And basically, you can hire people with experience cold calling. You can develop some kind of script, some kind of qualifier to get them interested. Again, you got to look at what your product is, what you're selling, and then basically have some kind of pitch to get interest derived from it. And then either transfer those calls to you or to call back on or to set up an appointment or to get information. Again, it is a bit old-fashioned. It is definitely grunt work. But if the timing is right, many times you can find good prospects, especially if you play longer term. This is where the fun is. If you come across an agent who maybe they're really good at what they do and they're happy, but you continue to follow up and build a relationship out of that cold call. Maybe the timing is right in the future, maybe sometimes years later, and then you can cultivate that business decision or business at that point. The next thing on the board or the list here is job boards. To me, job boards are kind of past their prime. The big problem with job boards, if you don't have a business where you're paying employees like your agents a wage and you're able to set this up and prove that you're not an MLM, they're very difficult to get approvals on jobs. I've had a heck of a time trying to get it done, and there's definitely agencies that do it, but it's gotten to the point now, especially since 2015 and beyond, when there's a lot of MLM insurance agencies that really moved into this space. They've made the whole job board process exceedingly difficult, much more than it had been in the past. The pros of job boards, you can scale tremendously if it's set up correctly and get a lot of people interested. The cons are you're dealing with people who have no clue what insurance is. So you got to educate them on the opportunity. You got to sell them on why they should work with you versus others. You have to get them through licensing. Then you got to get them out there to actually sell something. So there's a heck of a lot of work involved. It's very much similar to the process of doing, say, social organic, that maybe it's targeted to any business opportunity type person, not social organic, social paid, and you got to walk them through this entire process. So it is what it is, but it is something that can work at scale, but you have to have a pretty well-developed system in order to do it. I don't like it personally. Again, what you'll find, and we'll go over some takeaways here at the end, you're going to kind of find where your strengths are and then go all in on those strengths. And it usually isn't all of them. It's just maybe one, maybe two that you'll do profoundly well. Now, the last thing on my list here, and this is something that I don't know anybody who's doing this except me. It's very similar to the just the MLM process, but it doesn't require the partner to be licensed or in your downline. So I would call these Jay Abraham, who's an excellent marketing guru from yesteryear. Highly recommend his books. Predated, well, he's kind of around the time Dan Kennedy was out there doing his thing, and he was more out there with books and speaking, etc. But he called it the host-beneficiary relationship. And here's how it's basically the affiliate business model. Here's how it goes with the recent campaign. I went to a vendor who sells a sales system, but he doesn't recruit agents. He depends on agents, but he doesn't recruit them, has no interest in it. And my proposition was simple. Let's do an educational series of emails. Let's collect the emails from those people who are interested in it, and then let's encourage them, if they find what we send them valuable and interesting, to set up a discovery call with us so that we can talk about them joining our agency. And in a short couple of days, this is something we just began a couple days ago, Last count a couple hours ago, we had 425 agents who opted into this campaign. And then we have, I think, this is a couple of days ago, it's probably more now, because there's a series of opt-in emails after the initial emails that are going out. We have around 40 discovery calls booked so far, and that's just 10% of the total leads. Now think about that, 40 discovery calls, which not all of them are going to be recruited, but a good chunk of them will, all because we are sharing the revenue from the sales that those agents will make once they join our agency. So that's the proposition. You're able to approach a vendor and say, hey, you can partake in basically the recruiting business of overrides, which can be very substantial, but you don't have chargeback risk. You don't have to train them. You just have to just refer them to us. And it's been a not a boondoggle. It's been wonderful for us so far, and I'm very confident that this is going to translate into a great opportunity to build more recruits than we otherwise would, and then we're going to take this to other vendors. Now, I'm right now personally targeting people who are or vendors that are in the insurance space, but this is something you could take potentially to a limitless number of opportunities. You could take this to people in the business opportunity sector. Maybe somebody's got an email list or a YouTube following, and they're not in insurance, but they talk about business opportunities. And you can approach them. Many of these influencers and companies, you know, they've got a particular niche, but maybe they don't realize how much they can monetize their list. And that's a thing that I've realized is a lot of these companies don't monetize their list, meaning they don't make offers to it enough to squeeze out as much possible profit that they can. And this is a killer opportunity, because if you approach any biz op person, people are in the market for anything that has proven to be an opportunity, and your insurance sales opportunity may be wonderful. And it's even better if you approach, say, a lead vendor is a great idea, or a course seller. They all have a list of people who know, like, and trust them. And again, that's the benefit to these host beneficiary programs, is there's an explicit endorsement that comes from you, the list owner, when you say, hey, check out this stuff from David Duford, it's pretty cool. And that is so much better than a cold strategy where they don't know you, they don't have a chance to build a relationship, there's no implied or explicit endorsement. So this is huge. I'll make some updates on this, but this is going to be, I believe, for us, a huge part of our strategy going forward in recruiting agents. So to wrap this up here, some takeaways here that I think are really important. So number one, anything that you do, make sure that you're collecting the information, all right? You will collect every single name and email at a minimum for anybody that goes to your website that comes from any of the other opportunities, because just like Christopher Westphal says, he said for many years now, and he's extremely successful in the Medicare space, has sold his business recently, the fortune is in the follow-up. You won't always recruit everybody off of that first meeting or that first opt-in to your email. It may take months or years. I have people who say they've been stalking me, you know, from an internet standpoint, in a good way, not a bad way, for years before they decide to pull the trigger and join. And likewise, you probably have the same thing too. And the only way that you're going to get these people to remember to continue to consume your content and be in front of your offer is to collect their information. So how do you do that? It's very simple. Give something away for free and make them go to a landing page to opt in, preferably your website. And I'm actually going to bring you over to my screen real quick to kind of show you how I do it, because our first goal is to collect their information, obviously, from an application. But then the secondary goal, a B lead, if you will, not an A lead. A lead is the application to join. The B lead is going to be this other thing. So let me pop over here. I'll show you. So this is my website. This is where I go, or where agents go when they're mentioned on my YouTube channels and on my social media. And here you can already see there is a pop-up that occurs within, I think, 5 to 10 seconds of somebody navigating to my website. And it is an offer to receive a bunch of free, excellent training. And this is just kind of a snippet of it. And so the purpose of this is that I know that 99% of the people that come to this aren't just going to apply. They're going to come here, check it out, go on to the next thing. I want to capture their information and give them an offer that will be very appealing and relevant to what it is they're looking to accomplish, like be successful selling insurance. So we do this on the front end when they log in. We also, when they're leaving, we have another pop-up. It's basically the same thing, but it's just a variation of it, a little bit different looking, maybe different headline. but then again, to drive them into putting their email in and clicking yes to send the free tutorials. So this collects us an additional, I would say, 600 to 800 names a month with the traffic that we've got coming to the website. When they sign up for it, again, they go to this site, they watch this video, this is kind of the offer, and then they sign up here. Then they go to a training site, and this starts our relationship. They get to know, like, and trust me more. We do live training for them. We build relationships. And in the process of trying to recruit somebody, people are going to go with the company they trust and they have good vibes with. And this puts us at an advantage over the vast majority of agencies that just pump and dump, recruit or leave, and don't get the opportunity to build a relationship. So the point is, you got to offer, it could be something as simple as like a video overview of how to be successful. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as this, but you got to offer something for free and collect their information, and then continue to market to these people over time, because they may not be in the market now to make a move and then do business with you, but they might be in the future. And the only way you're going to be there in the future is if you ask and you're emailing them. Yeah, so the last thing here too, to reemphasize a point here, you will not just collect their information, you will ask them to apply, you will ask them to do business with you, you will ask them to come onto a one-on-one call, you'll ask them to come to free trainings, you will ask them to check out your new videos. You will always be emailing them. You have to force and create a relationship with them by actively pursuing them. How much time should you email? Just once a week. Start there. I email my people probably 15 times a week, and that's for my cold list of people who I'm not already have recruited. These are just a bunch of prospects, right? So a lot of people get strung up on over emailing, and it's not nearly that big of a deal, guys. They'll just ignore your email. Most people don't even look at it. That's why you got to email them so much. It's like same thing with phone calls. Why do you have to call them like 10 times a day? Because they don't pick up the phone. And the only way you're going to get them to do that is by calling more and more, and then statistically some will pick up eventually. But if you do too little, you won't get as big of impact. So the point is, always be making offers consistently to this list, sharing your success stories, your successful agents, building your brand, your culture with these people who have opted in to receive what it is that you're doing. So some final things here on the thoughts of recruiting. You don't have to do all of this to be successful. My take on this would be pick one out of the bunch here and go all into it. Okay, be a master of that one thing and specifically do it for 6 to 12 months before picking up on something else. Like for me, my first approach was I was on the insurance forums, people knew me, and I announced that I was recruiting. I got people that way that were kind of just browsing the insurance forum and saw that I was a kind of a micro influencer at the insurance forum level. And then I expanded into YouTube, and I pretty much did YouTube for my recruiting really up until 2018. For 4 years. Then I got into Google SEO, which that worked okay. It wasn't not nearly as good as YouTube. And then really, I haven't done really anything that different except testing out now some cold email and also testing out some of this affiliate stuff. So it's likely we're going to be expanding into other ways, because as my business has grown, I have capped out, or I don't say I've capped out, but we've definitely peaked, I think, some of the YouTube approach, considering there's more and more people coming into it. It's great. We recruit about 30 to 40 people a month strictly off of YouTube and the list that we generated, so I'm not complaining at all. But my point is that at some levels, as you scale, like what we've experienced, you got to start picking up different marketing methodologies, put them into the mix, tweak them, understand them, learn them. But you don't have to do all that in the beginning. You got to pick the thing that is most resonating with you and get really good at that before you start stacking on different strategies as you scale up higher and recruit more people. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of time, guys. One thing about recruiting, and we'll talk about this in a future video, like how do you pick the right people, where did the best people come from, so on and so forth. We'll save that for another video. But really the truth is that this business of recruiting is just a function of time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's just like selling. It's a bit of a longer sales cycle with the added difficulty of getting people to actually go out there and do what they're supposed to and sell. But understand that you're in a position where you have to go at it just like you were going at it as a salesperson. And you got to stick to the fundamentals. And the fundamentals here is you got to have some kind of system to drive traffic, of which there are going to be interested people in joining your agency. And then scaling that as high and as long as you can to get the most out of it. So I hope you enjoyed this training. By the way, check out insuranceagencybuilders.com. I'm going to have some kind of freebie there to share with you at no cost. So if you want some more great training probably some kind of video or book. I haven't quite decided on it yet, but please go to insuranceagencybuilders.com so you can request that information. You'll get on my newsletter list. I don't send anything or sell anything, but it's there just so I will have it if sometime in the future I need it. But make sure you go do that and pick that up if you're really passionate about agency building and you appreciate having perspective and training like what we're talking about today. We'll see you on the next video. David DeFore logging out. See you.